Okay, this video it's my first video on sequences. Sequences are simply patterns that get us from one place to another. And I have a very famous sequence here. This is from Pachelbel's canon. Okay. Whoop. Okay, so uh, I put the chords in down here, what they are. We're in the key of D major, and we have a 1 going to a 5, then up to a 6. And so we have this descending fifth, rising second idea, harmonically. And then he does it again a third down. So we have 6 going to 3, and then up to 4. And then he does that yet again. 4 going down to 1, starts it, ends it quickly. These patterns don't tend to be very long. They tend to get tedious, boring, whatever you want to call it. Most composers will carry a sequence out to 3 times before they stop it. We have 1 to 4 going up to 5 there. So so that's the harmonic pattern. Up 5, up 2. Up 5, up 2. Up 5, and then he breaks it in the middle there. So that's only one aspect. A lot of sequences, not all, but a lot of sequences also have this, what's called a linear intervallic progression, LIP. And what that is you look at the outer voices and you see a pattern. And at first you may think, oh, okay, well, this is easy. It's just a descending scale. Why do I need to know anything more than that? Well, it tells us a lot about how this is constructed. So we start here with an outer interval of a tenth. And then in the, well, that didn't do any good. In the next chord, I guess I'm not going to be able to show you the numbers. In the next chord, we have a fifth. Then in the next set, we have another tenth, and then a fifth. So we have this linear pattern that is created between the bass and the top voice. Usually we go by the top voice. There are instances where it might be an inner voice. So we continue this on 10, 5, and then he ends it here with 10, 10, 8. So you want to, you're doing this right if you get a consistent linear pattern that goes with the harmonic progression. So we could call this, different authors call it different things. This is descending or ascending fifth, rising second is one way. You could say it's a 3-chord pattern, a fifth apart. Little less accurate. It's really a descending fifth, a second apart. Most people, I think, nowadays just refer to it as a Pachelbel progression. So let's go back here and look at some simple progressions here. The most basic, the most common that you're going to find is the descending fifths. This is all a series of descending fifth chords here. So remember, ascending fourth is the same as a descending fifth. So if I go in here, these are all in root position. I can go in and I can put in all my Roman numerals here. Nice thing about these progressions, once again, is that they allow you to use chords in ways that you don't always get to use them. Like this 7 going to 3. We're used to at this point, 7 going to 1. and also 7 being in inversion. So we get to, students tend to love this because they get to break a rule. It makes them feel like they get to do something they're not supposed to. I don't know why that's a good thing. So we have an 8/5 here, an octave, and it becomes a fifth. And we can do this by retaining that top voice. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in first the 8/5 progressions. Okay. Well, we're going to get an inner voice pattern with this as well. If you see this going up here, what we're going to do is we're going to take, all this comes down a step. So I'm going to just put in here and I can just have these rise like that's doing. Descent and rise. Let's see here. B. And then G. A. And then whoop. Made a mistake here. There we go. So there's our 8/5 pattern throughout, and if we play that, we hear this sequence, and it's just all descending basses by third. Just a very common progression. I put this in keyboard style, but you could do it in SATB. If you do this right, you don't get parallel octaves. Notice on the 7 diminished here, if it's in root position, we don't, we don't have to worry about doubling the third because the bass is not moving where we expect it to go in a non-sequential leading tone chord. Okay, you can dress this up a little more. You have to change the voices, the inner voices to do this, but you could have a you could use inverted chords, alternating inverted chords. It still works. It just changes your inner voice leading a bit. Then there's a variation on the Pachelbel canon, which involves a descending scalar bass line. And what you're going to do here is you're going to start, you have 1, 5, 6 going to 6. Then the 6 goes to 3, 6 to 4. And it gives you this stepwise bass line. So when I go in here now, what I have to do is everything's going to go down. Each pattern's going to go down a third. And every other chord, because of the octave, is going to become a the inversion is there. You're going to have a octave in the right hand. That's what I'm trying to say. So I can do a -6, -3, and then G -8, -4, whoop, -8, -4. So we have that pattern going. And now we go down to C. Minus 6 minus, comma, minus 3. And then D minus 8 minus 4. So we get another pattern here with 10, 6, 10, 6, 10, 6. That linear pattern helps really sell that this is a sequence. Okay. I do have a mistake in here because we're in E flat and I there we go, fixed. Okay. So there's some basic sequences for you. A few more mistakes than I would have liked, but for the time being, I'm going to leave those in. Maybe I'll reshoot this later. But everything there that you need, it's, keep them simple and don't try to get too elaborate.